Okay, we welcome to uh, Time to Heal Legal Surgeries today. We're so happy to have you around today. Everyone who is joining live on Facebook and everyone who is here as well. Thank you, Kamina, for joining us today. We appreciate your presence as always. Kamina is a representative of the Aberdeen Women Alliance. So she's been a partner of Time to Heal, and she's a regular member of this legal surgeries. Thank you very much. We want to welcome you to this week 11 of legal surgeries, where we discuss topical issues that concern victims and survivors of domestic abuse. I just want to check whether you can hear me properly from there. Respond if you can on the chat button. So yes, so you're welcome again to this legal surgery. Today, our focus is on different aspects of domestic abuse and response. We just want to receive question and answers. But before we do that, we would touch on an aspect of discussion. We'll do a brief discussion on what I title, understanding how sexual predators rather, how they work and how we can respond effectively when we notice suspicious situations. So, but yeah, keep your questions, keep your comments, whatever you have to add as the presentation goes on. You can drop your contributions. There will be a time for us to discuss on these issues. So bear in mind, it's a question and answer session, but before we go into that, I just want to briefly talk about who sexual predators are and how they work and the way we can respond to protect our loved ones, our vulnerable ones, and of course, protect yourself generally. So without delaying, I want us to go straight to what we have for today. So who is a sexual predator? Who is a sexual predator? Someone who is called a sexual predator is someone who commits sexual crimes. That's the basic way I can put it. A sexual predator is someone who commits sexual crimes. He or she targets children and or young adults. So it basically who they are. They are sexual predators, and they could be male or they could be female as well. So there's no gender specificity on this, and they tend to appear very confident. In my own word, I call them sex hunters. They're people who hunt for sex. They target any category of people, and we'll look at in the next slide select how they select or pick their preferences. But the most important thing to bear in mind is there are people who hunt for sex, there are people who commit sexual crimes. In a world where we are busy, parents are busy, friends and loved ones are busy, we tend to forget that even at times the people will entrust our loved ones to could be potential sexual predators. So we need to be mindful of the signs, the things that we can watch so we can protect effectively our children and also protect ourselves from them. Like I said, they could be female, they could be male. So, but most often than not, I think most often than not, they tend to be male. But I don't have any statistics to prove that point. But it could be male, and it could be female. So, having understood who a sexual predator is, the next question is how they select their targets. How do these people work? How do they select their targets? What is their preference? So, and from my little training that I did not too long ago, I was made to understand that these people, select their targets based on gender. They select their targets based on age, on gender. Some are more interested in going after the female. Other sexual predators go after the male. So they select their target based on gender. Others select their target based on age, their age. They look at age, how young the person is, how, basically, so some target young children. There was a case back at home in the village. where I come from, where one very sad incident happened. A child that was less than 10 was actually molested sexually by an adult who was over 30, and it was handled. The law had its course. But then the point I'm making is that as gruesome, as wicked, and as atrocious as that is, it does happen, and it's happening even as we talk. So we need to be very mindful that these are real life situations. So these sexual predators look at gender, they look at age, they look at race. Some look at race, interestingly, as well. They look at race. And most importantly, in my own opinion, they look at vulnerability. How vulnerable is the person they are targeting? How vulnerable are they? Vulnerability in this sense means the person is helpless. A little child who doesn't have the ability to make decision for him or herself, or to defend him or herself, that person is vulnerable. Someone who is in a precarious situation, in a position of need, or who is sick, or who doesn't have anybody around to rescue him or her, the person is vulnerable. You know, disability is also an aspect of vulnerability. Someone who cannot run from a sexual predator, the person is vulnerable. So we need to look at vulnerability from a broad perspective. It is one of the key reasons, or I'll put it this way, one of the key things that sexual predators look for, how vulnerable the person is. If you're someone who is always needy, they pick out your vulnerable spot. What is this person, what they will call your weak spot, your weakness, and they look at it and they exploit it. They also look at appearance. Some people look at appearance, they have their preference on how people look and all that. So location matters as well. Where the person is, the young child or the young person, is the place secure? Is it in a very protected place? Do we have security cameras? Do we have adults? Do we have people passing by? So a victim is more vulnerable when you are in an excluded location, in an isolated location. If you are in the bush where nobody can hear your sound when you shout, that is a very vulnerable location. If you are in an enclosed space, and then in a soundproof apartment where nobody can hear you, so location matters as well. And lastly, the time of the day matters. Look at the time of the day to perpetrate their acts. Some of these things happen at night, but also they could happen during the daytime. Why? Because if parents go to work and everybody goes to work, the daytime seems to be very quiet at times, so they could exploit that time and perpetrate their action. So we need to be mindful, we need to be careful and be aware that this could be the areas of target: gender, age, race, vulnerability, appearance, location, and the time of the day. The other thing to consider, therefore, is what are the warning signs? What are the warning signs? What can you say are the warning signs? It is very important that even without knowing the warning signs, that once you know them, you critically identify and report. The essence of knowing these warning signs is to identify these things and be able to report them immediately and take action. So one of them, from my little understanding and training, one of the warning signs is that when you see an older person who is drunk, who is not drunk, escorting a drunken child or a young person, you see a young child who is drunk, that is strange. And then another person is escorting the person home. That could be a warning sign, especially if they're not from the same family, they're not from the same, they're not related by any extension. And even if they're related, the circumstances can make it suspicious. So look at that. Don't forget, it's a warning sign. Look at that and then begin to watch the person and begin to watch and take steps. Even if the person is not related to you, if you have what they call gut feeling that this is likely an awkward situation and you don't know what to do, there's nothing wrong in contacting the police or anybody to say, I feel that something is wrong. Can you please look into this? Then the second warning sign is when you see a child or a young person in a company of older people or in an antisocial group, then that could also be a warning sign. A little child, if you see a child of 10 years or even less, 15, in an antisocial group, mingling with people who are drinking, who are playing some strange songs and all that, the person is in that midst, that could be a warning sign. So it could be something that you should watch out for. The last point there, which is not the last basically, but it's when a young person, acts in an appropriate excuse me, act inappropriately or in a sexualized way, that with an adult. If you see a young child begin to act in a sexualized way with an adult, then that could be a warning sign that this person could be a victim or potentially might be a victim of sexual predation. So it's very important we know them. This list is not exhaustive, and that is the essence of this discussion. We will be able to tease out more from us. What are the things you feel could be signs of sexual predators, affecting our young ones? So we've looked at the warning signs, and the key message to remember is to identify them and be able to report them. Then we also look at signs. So what happens if a child has actually been sexually exploited? The other one is a warning sign. It hasn't happened yet. It may have happened, but it hasn't happened yet. But now we're looking at, okay, it has happened. What are the things that will point to you that this has happened? What I call signs that a child may have been exploited sexually. Number one, it's when you see the child begin to develop some expensive attitude, expensive habit. A child begins to drink a lot, begins to go into drugs, and all that. That is a sign that something has happened. That could be a sign that something has happened. And then the second category is when you see him or her begin to buy things that ordinarily she's not able to buy or he's not able to buy. Expensive phones, expensive gadgets, expensive materials, and these things cannot be explained. If a child is not working, even if you're working in a place that is paying you not so much, and you suddenly buy what your salary can afford, then parents should be in their right to ask questions. Friends can legitimately ask questions, and if no logical or plausible explanations are given, that should be a source of concern to investigate more. Don't go all ballistic immediately, but try to gather as much information as possible, because the danger of going so ballistic immediately is that it shut the window of communication. The child may not be able to communicate with you, and then the effect continues. So notice the signs, try as much as possible to gather as much information as possible, be friendly to extract the information until when you're sure, then you begin to act. Then the third thing to look out for is when the child spends more time in the antisocial group I mentioned before. He spends more time with people that on a normal day, on a good day, he or she will not do that. So that is another thing to look out for. Then you see the child becomes absent from home. If you're from a home that does family prayers, you have family prayers in the evening when you eat and all that, the child misses lunch, misses breakfast, misses dinner together with the family. Family time, movie time is no longer there. He or she is no longer there. Then that should be a time to ask questions. So the things he or she used to do with parents at home and the child is no longer at home, then you should begin to ask some questions as well. Our parents here, who we can learn more from us, how to handle this situation. I claim no knowledge on this aspect, but we can learn from each other. Then the other thing is to, when you notice signs of injuries on the child's body, in child has injury, basically assaulted. Bear in mind that in Scotland, assault is a statutory offense. It's prosecutable. So these are things that we should bear in mind, even beyond the sexual aspect. Assault alone is something that should be watched against. So having wound is an indication that something has happened to the child. And then the last point there is strange behavior. You notice strange behavior. This can be tied in to the second and third point. Strange behaviors is a broad category when a child's behavior changes suddenly. Her language or his language changes suddenly. His or her dressing changes suddenly. The music he or she listens to changes suddenly. The things he or she does and all that, the child doesn't do them anymore. So these are things to watch out for. So again, I will come back to us. I will ask us questions. What do you think are the other signs that could be available or that we should watch out for? Because these signs are not exhaustive. By no means they're not exhaustive at all. So, but we need to tease out as much as possible to enable us to understand this scenario. The other point to mention is, if we've talked about the warning signs, we also talked about the signs that could be if a child has already been exploited. What about a level higher when the child is being trafficked? The child is being trafficked. Trafficking is you take a child away from the parent against their will. Either you use force, you seduce them, you use inducement. So you traffic the child. Trafficking is illegal. It's not just in the UK, it's illegal. The international conventions, the human rights conventions, African Charter on Human Rights, all these things contain them. In my country, Nigeria, trafficking is illegal. It's a criminal offense. So when you see these things, we should be confident enough to speak up and to report. So what are the signs that a child may be trafficked or may be in process of being trafficked? Number one, when you see the child or the person checking into an hotel with another person, that is a suspicious situation. A child and a young person checking into an hotel with an older person could be an indication that something is going on. So you're appropriate. If you're someone who works in the hotel, your job. I know that your job is there to satisfy the customers, but if you feel that something is not working, it's not right. A 50-year-old man checking into an hotel with, let's say, 15-year-old or even less than that, then that should be a source of concern, and you can begin to raise some questions as well. So second point is, a young child or a person arrives or departs from a location and at a different time from an adult. The child arrives from a different location, an adult arrives at a different location in the same day or within a period of time. So they come at different times, basically. That is the meaning. You go into an hotel, the child or group of children arrive first, and then the adult comes back later. So they give time, they give gap. So you just watch. The most time, the gap may not be too much, maybe an hour, maybe 30 minutes, may even be morning and afternoon, and they go into the same direction. Then that should be something that one should watch out for. We need to be vigilant. We need to be very attentive. The last point there is that the child or the young person gets into or out of a car. A child gets into or out of a car. As a parent, if I see my child going into a car that you cannot identify, then that should be a source of worry. In the first place, you shouldn't go into a car that the father, the mom, or any of them does not know. So when you see that happen, or group of children going into cars, then one should be able to ask questions about what is going on. So these are some of the things I feel should be highlighted and that we should be aware of when we are talking about sexual predators. So the question is, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? There's a buffet of things to do. We have loads of things to do. I just highlight a few of them, but we have so many things to do. I would say report immediately, report suspicions immediately. When you find anything that is not safe, report them. You can also safely approach. The key word is safely. If you're approaching a suspect, you need to make sure that the circumstance is safe. You're protected. You don't want to endanger your life as well. You safely approach the suspect to ask questions in order to break the chain of crime. You need to break the chain until you're satisfied that what is going on is not illegal. You can safely approach the suspect and ask questions. I just saw you, go into the hotel with 5 children. I hope everything is okay. Are they your children? Are you related? I know that the person says, yeah, they're related. You can ask for some set of ID just to know and ascertain who they are. So you can do that. In my opinion, you can do that. And then you can use the emergency phone lines if you feel that something has definitely gone wrong. You see a child crying out of an hotel or someone crying out and you can see bruises on their face and all that, then you know that something is going on. You could immediately call an emergency and then let them know the details of what you saw, and they can respond as soon as possible. At least the investigation will begin. Then for our own part, as parents and as loved ones, as family members, we should watch closely our children. We should watch our friends closely, our brothers and sisters, watch them closely. You know your child. Your mom knows you. My mom knows me. You know how they react. You know what they eat. You know what they do. And all of a sudden, these things change. Then we should be able to ask some questions. So these are the things that we can do immediately from home: taking care of our children, watching them carefully. Do not leave them vulnerable. If you go shopping, don't allow them to stray away from where you are, and then you begin to look for them. So that is one of it. A particular incident happened when I traveled to Edinburgh just recently. A mom was walking along. She had a baby in the buggy and she was pushing the baby, and then she had another child with her. That one was coming behind her. She literally left. She moved ahead for a long time. The other child was behind, and she did not know that the child has been left behind for a long time. And then so not until the child paused and was like discussing with a stranger that she now, oh, where are you and all that. So such thing, gap should not be created. That alone, if you leave a long space, a long time, you keep your children in a vulnerable situation. Kidnappers can even pick children before you say something, they are gone. So watch our children closely, watch our situation, our homes, protect them closely as well. And then talk more with them, discuss more with them, ask questions, and know what is going on in their life. Basically, be friendly. Be friendly, in my opinion, be friendly with them. It's good to be disciplined, be a disciplinarian, do not tolerate bad habits, but be in such a way that they can communicate with you and tell you what is going on. So these are some of the things I feel that we should take note of, and then we can open up the floor for discussion on what I have just mentioned. So for those of us who joined us, we were just looking at, you know, sexual predators, how to understand how they work, and then how to also respond in suspicious situations. We define who a sexual predator is. We said is someone who commits sexual crimes, someone who targets vulnerable people, and could be a male or female, and then they tend to be very confident. I simply call them sex hunters. Then we looked at the way they target their victims. So I want to leave the floor open for us to discuss about this issue. Do we think that this is a real issue, that is a very critical issue that we should be mindful of, bearing in mind that as the situations change, things change as well? What if you think is a real issue, what can we do as families to protect our loved ones? And what do you think the government can do more to protect vulnerable people? Anyone can help us to contribute?
What was I going to say? I was going to say parents should set rules and boundaries for stranger danger,
Okay.
whether it be sexual or not, just so that children know, I don't go and talk to that stranger. And also when they've been picked on, usually that adult usually tells them, don't tell your mum, don't tell anybody, you know, keep it to yourself. Keeping secrets and being very secretive, which isn't very good. You know, they should be free to report any suspicions immediately, especially if they get approached and it brings up red flags inside them. It doesn't feel right, saying don't have nothing to do with them and get home as quick and report it to your parents or your guardians. Do you think?
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you very much, Kamina, for that contribution. I think that's very, very correct. I like the word or the expression that you used, that parents should set rules for stranger danger. I like that word, stranger danger. You know, when absolutely there is a risk in in leaving your children or leaving our loved ones with strangers. Why? Simply because they're strangers. We don't know who they are. We don't know what they are capable of. We don't know where they come from. We don't know what their intention is. And we don't know what they ultimately aim to achieve with the child. So you're absolutely correct. So the word stranger danger, parents should do that, set rules around not just meeting strangers, accepting things from them, and generally, and I think some homes already do that. Some homes practice that thing. It's important that we do it deliberately and we watch that it's been followed. I agree with you. That's very good. Thank you, Kamina. Any other contributions? What about the aspect of the signs that a child may be exploited sexually? What other signs, apart from the one displayed on the screen, do we think may be there? The things that we can see, oh, that if this happens, the child may be in danger of exploitation, or not just sexual exploitation, of any kinds of negative experiences. What other signs should we watch out for as parents and as loved ones? See, I think it's important. Do we think that when a child it does it, it becomes difficult, really, especially now when we have a lot of what they call freedom. Have freedom. The law protects, freedom of children, freedom of, they can do what they need to do, what they have to do. And so how do we strike that balance, that neat balance, that a child's freedom and privacy is respected? Bearing in mind, we're talking about a child or young persons. A child in this sense is someone who is below the age of maturity in law. So how do we make sure that we balance both sides, a child's privacy, legal rights, and also the parents' responsibility, not just parents now, loved ones' responsibility to protecting these children? Because there have been instances where children have, I've reported to the police, I've reported to authorities that they are not allowed to express themselves. So how do we balance that? Does anyone have any answer?
Well, Lawson, I was just thinking of the internet and the TV as well. You should always have like parent control, because the children could be hiding things. I mean, you could be going to bed, and how do you not know that your child's still on his phone at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning? I mean, things like removing the phone, removing I don't know what it's called for these modern day gadgets, like for Xbox and things like that, removing their tools. I know they wouldn't be happy. It would cause maybe a tantrum, but it's like bedtime. So remove all the meat things and let them have a good sleep and not be into the internet. I'm not very tech, but would be advisable in circumstances like this.
You're right. Technology is a huge way now. Actually, I think exploitation in the electronic domain is a huge aspect that we can't even finish today. Interestingly, one of our legal support team member, Ting, she did a presentation on cyber security and cyber harassment. For those of us who missed that presentation, we have it on our YouTube channel. You can please subscribe and watch them. We also have it on our on Time to Heal's Facebook page, so you can go back and watch as well. But I think beyond that, it's an aspect that we need to look at critically, because the internet now it's growing bigger, it's growing wider, and it's growing in influence. In fact, it's an avenue of culture change. So I think it's important that you, like you said, that parents acquire some level of, let me put the word, I beg your pardon, a level of literacy on how to control the electronic gadgets. iPad, for example, the phones, for example, we have different types of phone, the iPhones and the Androids, the laptops and the desktop computers. We should have some level of literacy on how to manage these things. And these things come by law, just to mention, by law, they are required, these electronic companies are required to put parental control in the gadgets on all this. It's a requirement of the law to put that, especially when someone is below age. When you're registering and you're going into all these websites, they ask for age identification and all that. But the problem is people know, young ones know about this. They learn, and some can forge their age. Some can actually do a lot of things. So some other gadgets have devised means where they actually ask you to snap your face to determine what your age is. And I also think that that one is not as effective as it should be, because some people look younger than their age and others may look older than their age. So that could not be, facial expressions or facial identification mechanisms may not be the best way to protecting children. So it still boils down to parental control, like you said. It said that parents should control the iPad, control the televisions, control the laptops and everything until they are sure that their children are protected. Beyond control as well, I think it's important that parents talk with their children, sensitize them of the benefits and the danger of the electronic world, of these gadgets, so they can take advantage of the good ones and not fall victims of the bad ones. So you're right. Parental control is another way of watching our children's safety. Any
Hello.
other? Yes, ma.
I wanted, yes, I wanted to raise my hand, but I didn't see where I will raise it. Please permit me to keep my camera closed.
No
As
problem, ma.
I don't know. So I want to raise a scenario, and
Okay.
if maybe we can probably also discuss it. Yes, I want to say thank you very much for this presentation, and I'm going to take it off the Facebook as soon as we finish this.
All right, ma.
I want us to remove it from the public, because
Okay.
I believe that this event, we have to repeat it in a very,
Okay.
very, at a jar, whatever. This is a subject that is highly needed, and I think we have not done enough good job to many more people need to hear this. So that's the reason why we are going to remove it and repeat this very, very, very good presentation. Thank you very much.
Yeah, ma.
Thank you. I want us to discuss something like, let's take, for instance, a 15-year-old child. We are talking about children, right? And
Yes.
I think in the UK here, a child is defined as anybody from 18 and below.
Yes.
Okay, so let's assume a 15-year-old child approaches a pharmacist for the morning after pill, and she says she does not need all the advice, and she has been going through it before. I think she's been going through it. She's been having, she's on medication, so to say.
Mm.
So now today, and you know the routine. When you go, they tell you do like this, the normal routine. And now
Mm.
she said today, now I don't need to go through the advice, as I've been going through it before. Then this girl keeps a mobile phone. We are looking at a scenario, isn't it? Okay.
Yes.
So let's say this girl keeps her mobile phone on all the time, that she's talking to the pharmacist and reacts to the messages arriving with fear. And just like you said, she also has a large amount of cash available to pay for the medication. And somehow an older man is present in the pharmacy while she's talking to the pharmacist. So immediately at a point, the man leaves with her. What do we do at such incidents?
Thank you so much,
Maybe
Ma,
if you are
for that
there as
question.
a social worker.
Yeah, I say thank you for that question. That's a very, very important question that requires answer. You're absolutely correct. It can happen in real life. So I want to keep the floor open. Kamina, and I can see on the chat button as well, Olu. If any of you has any response to that question. But I think why they are why they're preparing to respond if there is any answer from them. I think what if I understood the question well, if a child goes into a pharmacy and then the pharmacist wants to ask the normal preliminary questions they used to do, but the child refuses that. Oh, I'm aware, I've gone through that before, and then he or she gets what she wants and then leaves, and after a while an adult follows. If that is the question, I think it's still very much, in my opinion, within the scope of suspicion. If a child, if a pharmacist or if a social worker is there and he or she suspects that the child is acting weird or something is not right, it is absolutely okay to raise the suspicion by either calling the necessary authority, call the police, and report exactly what you saw. But the danger of calling the police is the child and the adult may have left before the police comes in. So one has to now make sure that an eye is kept. Yeah. One has to keep an eye on both the child and the adult and take note of the direction they are going. Another scenario is if they came with a car and the child and the adult enter the car, so it may be difficult to exactly know where they're traveling to. So I will assume, in my opinion, if it is safe for the social worker or the person or the pharmacist to, once the suspicion is seen, to try and keep them there by engaging them with some questions, engaging them with some discussions.
Engaging them.
Yeah, engage them with some certain discussions. And now the phones that we have are easy to identify. You quickly dial, press a number on your phone, and then the phone is ringing already. And then while you're discussing, the phone is already ringing. So emergency number, I think it's 24, I've forgotten, it's 24. And then one can start keeping them until someone comes in who can ascertain what exactly is going on. So it's a difficult one to be frank, but it's better to take the steps that will protect someone if the suspicion is high than allow them to go. And then after 2 days, you hear that the child has been molested. At times, they may even die out of it, especially if it involves drugs. So that's my take. I don't know what others feel. Kamina?
I find it is a difficult one because you're saying if the child goes into the chemist and refuses to answer and gets what it wants and the adult follows, do you report it? Yes, but you were saying if they got away from you and they got into a car, then the best thing to do is to take the number plate to trace the car. But I agree with Abiola, you should try and engage them to prolong the situation so that you can get help, because like you're saying, if you phone the police and the police come after, it becomes more complicated. As you're saying, it leaves the child in danger to be murdered or horrible things happening to it. So I find it's to predict. It's a situation I wouldn't like to see or to happen.
Yeah.
What I also think is that I'm just wondering also, especially in our place like here in the Western world, almost every pharmacist, pharmaceutical chemist or whatever is inside another mall, so to say. Like we have the booths in the, where do we have the booths? Abon Accord Center, and then the Union Square. I mean, they're just every of those mall has their security agents.
Mm.
So what is it? Is it possible? Because at such a time, for instance, if okay, I'm almost lost now because we didn't know the man we go with anyway.
Yeah.
But immediately at that point, is it possible to just notify the security people to give them an interrogation? I think they have, isn't it?
Yeah, so you're right. So every store, every big organizations like that may usually have, they may
Because they
have
are easier
security.
to get than while we are still calling the police. Uh, so is it something we can do?
Yes, you can certainly
Yes, I
do, but
reckon I agree
yes,
with
I mean,
you.
I
I
go on.
agree with you. I agree with you, Abiola, because there is security there. Like, I mean, if there's a shoplifter, the pub, and there's somebody shoplifting, and the security people come through and attend to that or stop the person who's committing a crime. So I believe it's the same with the situation with the child and the adult. If you see it and you go up to security people and point out to them and give them an idea of what's happening, I would say they can intervene, and that way that they could help them. Because if there's a lost child and they're wandering through the Bonaccord Centre and an adult sees them, they to security and there's an announcement comes out, I have a child at a certain point, will the mum and dad come to collect them? Because the child might have got away from them without knowing, maybe in Next or John Lewis's or something like that. Do you understand what I mean? So if that person, if you're seeing that situation, yes, I think you should cause the alarm bells to the security to respond, because they've got CCTV. So
Yeah,
somewhere along the line, it should
They
be
can
on,
trace.
should be able to track it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
my.
I agree. I agree with both of you. I just have to add one caveat, however, that based on the law, yes, the security officer, operative, let's put it that way, can intervene if there is a suspicion raised. The key word is suspicion that something is going wrong. But the security officer does not have the right in law to detain or basically arrest in that kind of suspicion. They only have the right when it's an indictable offense. For example, if something has been stolen, assault has happened in the situation, any of those grievous offenses, the child is in possession of a controlled drug. But if it is a mere suspicion, what a security officer can do at best, I agree, first of all, that they should be informed. And then what the security officer can do is to be the one to interrogate them and keep them there whilst the discussion is going on. And I will agree again that if the child is seriously underaged, if the age of the child is such that if the child goes away, the child might be in danger, let's say 12, 15, 13, then the security officer may be within the scope of law to say, sorry, I'm sorry, sir, or sorry, anyone, that I may have to keep you to ask you some questions while we certify what is going on. We request for ID. One way of doing that would be to request for identification from these people. And if they refuse to give identification, especially when it has to do with drugs, then the police may have to be contacted. But they can't arrest them if they say, no, I'm not going to allow you to do what is going to go on. Otherwise, something else that would be against the law. But I agree that the security officer, the pharmacist, and anyone who is there, they have a duty to make sure that these people are kept there whilst the authority comes in to properly investigate. But if eventually they go away, Kamina is right, the plate number of the car has to be taken immediately, and they can start tracing them from there.
Lawson, can I ask you,
Yes.
but can a member of the public make a citizen's arrest with
Yes, a member of the public can make a citizen's
if a
arrest.
security guard can't?
Yeah, under the, but the security guard is a member of the public, so he can make a citizen's arrest. It's protected under the Criminal Law Act. So but you can only do that under what they call indictable offenses. Indictable offenses are offenses that are can be prosecuted in court. Arson, for example, when you burn the building, murder is an indictable offense. Theft is an indictable offense. Grievous bodily harm, sexual assault, all of these things they are indictable offense. You can arrest them. Any member of the public can arrest them, but you can't arrest on a suspicion. The act has to have been committed. For example, if you suspect someone to be stealing in a store, you can't arrest the person. You can only intervene to stop that act. The person have to, in law, they call it mens rea and actus reus. So the intention has to manifest in action, then you can arrest the person. If the intention is to steal but has not manifested in action, then you cannot arrest the person. But all said and done, a member of the public, including the security operative, can make an arrest once an indictable offense has been committed. And then, but you are required to hand over the person immediately to the police. You can't arrest the person and take him or her to your home and detain the person. No. So that is the law in Scotland. So yes.
Okay, question, please.
All right.
I want to see, I don't know how we can relate this to Africa, and especially Nigeria, where we have this harassing and alarming, provoking, I don't know the word to use, cases of kidnapping. So if this kind of a thing happens, maybe somewhere in Abuja or Lagos or somewhere, do you have an answer for this? Or you have an idea of what we can do?
So if this kind of thing, is it the kind of scenario that you gave now, if it happens in Abuja or in Nigeria, is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, that kind of scenario or some other things, just like what you have discussed or you have mentioned to us today. How can we contextualize this to an African situation and Nigeria in particular?
All right, Ma. So I get it now. Yes,
because they have quite a good number of them journals.
Oh, okay. So yes, it's the same. The law is the same so long as I'm concerned. Nigeria is a common law jurisdiction country. Most of our laws are coined from the English system. The law of indictable offenses, the way they are in the UK, especially in England, are the same in Nigeria. The law of the age of a child, the same way it is in England, is the same in Nigeria. A child is someone who is below 18 years. So the age of maturity in Nigeria is the same as 18. The way it is in UK is the same in Nigeria. Then the issue of child abuse. In fact, Nigeria has a law specifically on it called the Child Rights Act, so which covers the protection of the child from any of those things. And we also have the Trafficking Against Persons law is there. So the the same scenario can be transported to Nigeria, and the same law will protect them. A member of the public as well in Nigeria can arrest anybody who commits an indictable offense. A member of the public, security operatives, they can do that as well in Nigeria. And in terms of protecting children from sexual predators, we have sexual offenses provisions in Nigeria. Rape provisions are there, sexual assault provisions are there. And if you molest a child who is below the age of maturity, the same provisions are there. However, the only difference is in the northern part of Nigeria, the northern region, because of Sharia law, the age limit of a child who can be married differs from the southern part of Nigeria. So in the southern part of Nigeria, we have the criminal code. In the northern part of Nigeria, sorry, yes, we have the criminal code. In the northern part, we have the penal code. And the penal code is the one that regulates offenses in the north. So we don't have a uniform criminal code that governs the whole of Nigeria.
Wow.
In fact, in Lagos has its own law. They call it the Administration of Justice, Administration of Criminal Justice Law. So we have criminal code, we have penal code, and we have ACJL in Lagos. So that's the problem of the criminal justice system in Nigeria. So in the south, yes, that would be an offense. In the north, I think someone who is below 18 can actually be married legally, and that is the difficulty. So, but if it is not done under marriage, rape, then the person will go for criminal offense. The only circumstance that is legal is marriage. Apart from being a marital situation, it is against the law.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh,
Right.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Ask you, you touch a lot on different child abuse. Could I ask you about incest? What happens with that? If it's happening in the family and anybody outside get a warning that something's not right. Did you cover that in your training?
Not in this presentation. I was about to actually mention that one of the challenge that happens is when you have family members who are the ones who are guilty of this offense. So now, whether or not the person is a family member, whether it's a father, mother, brother, or not, so long as the child is being molested, it is a criminal offense. It's a criminal offense. If a father molests a child, it's a criminal offense. It may not be under the category of incest, because I have to double check that, whether incest is a crime in the UK. In Nigeria, certainly, it's forbidden in some part of Nigeria, but not completely in the whole part of Nigeria. African culture is against it completely. So, but in the UK, the best bet would be to pick up the person for sexual exploitation and sexual assault. If a child is being molested, anybody who assaults a child, who sexually assaults a child that is below the age of maturity, whether father, mother, friends, or anyone, the person is going in for criminal offense. If the person if the person is below the age of maturity, is going up for an offense. Where the problem comes is if the person is an adult and the person has consented to it. If you're above 18 and then same family members, I think in the UK, or I need to double check that it may be allowed, where family members get married, especially under this law, the law that they have right now about equality and the right to choose who to marry and who not to marry. So an adult may be allowed to marry anybody, but if the child is below the age of maturity, anything done to that child is an offense, notwithstanding whether the person is a family member. Does that help?
Thank you very much for explaining that.
Okay.
Yes. I was also wondering, like when you were saying like 18 to 18, but then what if it's like a young child with an older sibling and the older sibling's molesting them? Because then that means that older sibling might be underage, isn't it?
Yes.
The older sibling's underage. What happens there?
The older sibling will be guilty of an offense under the law. Even if the older, so long as you have a minor in the scenario.
Them?
Yes, certainly you can prosecute them. The thing is, you have to report that to police. It is the state, it is the government that will prosecute the older sibling. Any crime committed is against the state. That's the difference between civil and criminal law. In civil law, in civil cases, an individual can prosecute a person in court. But in criminal cases, like sexual exploitation, your duty ends when you report it to the police. The police will collect the evidence, collect your statement and all that. They will be the one to charge the person in court. So, but yes, certainly that person can be prosecuted.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. And I hope that discussion has helped us to understand how to understand sexual predators, how they and how we can respond in suspicious situations. We will hope that we'll have a larger house in the future, and then we can have better discussions. Like a manager said, Reverend Abiola said, it's a topic that everyone should contribute in and be aware on how to protect children. So on behalf of Time to Heal, this is brought to you by Time to Heal, Legal Surgery Series, week 11. We do this every weekend on Saturdays from 12 to 1 p.m. But will let us know details of the next legal surgeries. But till we see, I'll hand over to Reverend Abila Krona, manager, if she has one or few words to give to us before we close for today.
Lawson, can I just say, Lawson, I'd like to, before Abiola, just a minute, thanking you so much for your very good presentation and for the training you have done. The subjects are well put over about sex hunters. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. That's good to know. Thank you very much, Kamina.
I also want to say thank you so much, not just for this, but for all the effort you have put into this department. Every one of the discussion have been unique in their own right. But for this one, I just couldn't let it go. So, like I said, we will announce a better date when we're going to have this and see how we can get it out to a larger audience. I want to thank everyone who has been a part of this surgery. I want to thank a very special thanks to our friend and our partner, Kamina, and I am expressing my appreciation on behalf of Time to Heal to the Women Alliance. Excuse me.
Thank you.
For your partnership. It's been such an amazing and an awesome one. Kamina has not missed any of our session, if I can remember completely.
That's right.
I want to appreciate you very, very much for that encouragement. And
thank you. You're very welcome.
I would like to invite you all, those of you here, on next week, this time, isn't it, Lawson? We shall be having a special appreciation for all our volunteers, and you'll have the opportunity to see at least a large number of the people that make things happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a virtual event. I don't know whether I will put it on Facebook. We've not discussed that at the management level. But please be our guest. It promises to be a great time. And I also want to announce that this Christmas time, by the grace of God, we shall be giving out at least 100 packs of food pack and whatever We also have some winter care products. So please, you can just contact us if there's somebody. Don't let anybody go and stay at this Christmas with. And like you know, many people die as a result of winter and cold during winter. We just want to see to what extent we can be of help and be a blessing. So please spread the word. We don't have all the answers, but the little we have, we like to provide, and God will bless us. So I assume this is the last surgery for the year.
Yes,
Lawson?
I think so. Because since we have the next appreciation
Okay,
message.
because today is the last. Today is the last day of November. Next week is our volunteer meeting. The upper week is our Christmas distribution, and after that, we are closing up for the year, except for maybe personal private needs. Well, even though we are closed, we are not closed up to our service users. Any emergency, our 24/7 line is always on. But on all these presentations, we agree that we need to rest, like you can see. Thank you very much, Lawson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. And then have a wonderful weekend, Camina. Have a wonderful weekend, Lou. And then we see us when we see. Take care and stay safe. Bye, everyone watching online.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye,
Thank you.
Camila.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Ula. Thank you, Ula. Thank you. Bye.